Commissioner Jagger?
Here.
Commissioner Longmire?
Present.
Commissioner Mahoney?
Here.
Commissioner Plummer?
Here.
Commissioner Skolnick?
Here.
Commissioner Snyder?
Here.
Commissioner Wilkins?
Here.
Commissioner Connors?
Here. Thank you. Approval of the minutes, December 13th, 2011.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor say yea.
Yea.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Public comment on agenda item. Anybody in the audience would like to make a comment on an agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to items for consideration. WM 1201-1, accounts payable.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. WM 1201-2 from administration. Approval holding a public hearing to accept citizens' comments on the release of funds for HUD-led grant.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? Mr. Karasinski?
We had a gentleman in here whose specialty was inspecting homes for lead. And he was a full-time employee. I believe he was our employee, and I don't think he accomplished more than one a month. Did anybody else pick that up when he was here?
There were 1 month homes renovated. There were a lot more inspected.
Okay, okay, thank you for that clarification.
Anyone else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. WM 1201-3.
So moved. Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. WM 1201-4 from administration.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Jagger?
On this, are we going to employ a list for this grant that'll define where we're doing? What I'm asking is are we establishing where wetlands are going to be on top of this?
Judy Kell, grant coordinator. The earlier item that you had about holding a public hearing on citizens' comments is part of this environmental review process that this policy relates to. HUD has designated HUD has designated through a statutory checklist, which is a lot of gobbledygook, I know, that work cannot be done in USDA-defined wetlands and FEMA wetlands through the flood hazard program. Those are defined for us. There's nothing we can do about them other than pull them off the map. What the policy does is it allows this board to work in those townships, villages, and municipalities that don't have flood insurance, so that we can work in those communities if they do not meet the issues of the evidence of ponding against the foundation or the seasonable high water table. So long story short, the areas are defined. There's nothing we can do about it. The federal government will not allow you to rehab a home in those areas because they, quite frankly, don't want to invest money in a home that might be flooded. What this policy does is it allows us on a case-by-case basis in those municipalities to actually look at the properties and make sure that we can do a waiver to work on them.
But once we establish this list, I guess, of where we can't do things, excuse me. Anyway, once we establish this list, is what I'm worried about kind of in a sense is, would the county be able to compile a list that also maybe these townships couldn't build in them anymore?
The only thing I can say is this list we're not compiling. It's already compiled by the federal government. And so what they're saying is you can't use federal dollars for construction or rehab in those areas unless you have an exemption. And what this board is trying to do is to develop on a case-by-case basis, looking at the properties in those areas to make sure that we could actually do the work in the areas where there is none. So that's not our list. That's a list we're kind of stuck with.
Yes, and I understand that. I just would hate to see us put a policy in place, and then all of a sudden now we can't build like down toward the river or do anything else because we've established a policy. Because we would have this list on hand now.
I don't
I guess
foresee that happening, that the county's gonna be building any houses.
No, I know the county, but I don't want to stop Cedar Creek from doing it, is what I'm saying, because they have chose to be not under the flood insurance plan because they're afraid that then they would have limited use to the land they have. So I don't want to compile a list. It could create a problem for them into the future of being in that floodplain.
Well,
I
as
mean, it
long
might be
as
hard to
they don't
explain.
use federal dollars,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. If they want to
If
just
they do it with
use
their own money.
their money, they can build wherever they want to build. It's the use of federal
I
dollars.
just wouldn't want to see a reestablish a plan that could end up hurting in the end, like, because the government has some control.
Well, this policy is actually trying to help the residents in those townships.
Oh, I agree with that. I can understand what this is doing. What I don't want to do is just go for a step further than what we're at and create the next problem that could come along with it. Because they have, as far as I know, have established a policy of not being in this floodplain so that they can still keep building down in that river flat or building on them banks or wherever they go. So I guess that's what my concern is. I just don't want to get into a point where we had authority over them somehow or another to where they could build.
Commissioner Darazinski.
Judy, the municipalities mentioned here, one can assume those not mentioned are fine.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Plummer.
Just want to let you know that building on floodplain is regulated by the Michigan Building Code, so it doesn't matter what we write, the state supersedes it, so. And we will not interfere with it. You can build in there, it's because the building code says you can, not because anybody else can restrict it. Just to let you know.
I'm cool. I mean, I'm for this. It's not.
Yeah, we can't, anything we would do would never be able to stop it.
Yeah, I just don't
Regulated
want
by
to,
the building code.
I don't want to change zoning in any sense to it.
Mr. Skolnick.
I just had, I guess I sort of understand this, but the county doesn't get money for rehabbing houses? I mean, does that flow through us to?
Yes, sir.
All of it does?
Yes, sir. We have the two programs, the
But I mean,
HUD-led grant and the Community Development Block Grant.
Those community development block grants, though, we don't make any decisions on what properties get developed or anything.
Well, the counties, yes, we do. We're taking applications from residents right now, so that when this final public hearing and the request for the release of funds is done, hopefully we're going to be able to this is going to work in tandem so it can start immediately for those residents that meet the income eligibility
I
requirements.
misunderstood. You know, and I would make one other comment. I live on a water and, you know, I'm in a floodplain, and 100-year floodplain or something, and I remember when I built the house, I checked on the cost of flood insurance, and it's really expensive. I mean, it was prohibitively expensive. So I'm not sure how the flood insurance works. Well, I sort of understand how it works, but somebody wins on that. I don't know. Apparently people are building on the ocean, and every time their house gets blown down, they get a free house out of it. But, we have no oceans. So.
Commissioner Darazinski.
Judy, there's money for lead abatement in residentials. Is there money for asbestos abatement in some of these older homes?
I wish I could find some.
Okay, thank you. I know it's there.
Um,
If it's there, you would find it. I know that.
You know, what limited community development block grant money we have, when there's a house that will have asbestos, we'll be able to use that as part of their abatement.
Any other questions for Judy?
Yes, I have a question. Judy, on that, the removal of the lead, lead paint, do we have any students at the colleges learning this, because it's very, very expensive to remove that, and that would be ideal for jobs for young people if this were implemented so that they could start getting graduates of that course to rehab and redo houses in this county. Are they doing that?
Well, in actuality, that's part of the HUD lead grant requirements. They're called the Section 3 requirements, and we're working with the Department of Employment and Training to start setting up programs for that, because that is a piece of the HUD lead grant program that we have to proceed with. I will say that when I was at the Department of Employment and Training, I know that I personally approved probably 10 or 15 students to be trained in lead at that point. So it is going forward, and it is part of this process.
I would like to hear more in the future as to what's happening to them,
Yes, ma'am.
and if we're placing them and where they go or what happens, if you can.
Well, we'll be doing quarterly reports and for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and if you would like a copy of that, that'll have to be in the narrative.
Very good.
So we can easily get you that.
Anyone else? Thank you. Heard the motion, what's your favor? Favor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Moving on to WM 1201-5 from administration. Authorize the lease purchase resolution of PNC.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Questions? See none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. WM 1201-6 from Human Resources.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Old business. Any old business? Mr. Plummer.
I just wanted to bring up something that came up the other night when we were at the city of Muskegon. It's about our dog license ordinance that we passed, and I fail to see the reason why the city of Muskegon would say they wouldn't sell dog licenses to their residents anymore and blame it on us. We did not create that. I thought we made it easier for these municipalities to sell dog licenses to their residents. And just, I don't know if you've had any complaints, but they're the only municipality that I've heard of so far that's refusing this, and I wish they would reconsider. Thank you.
Also, they made great emphasis on that. There were 2 signs posted, like they were yelling, and we were the people that were responsible for it. So it was, sort of, it kind of got mixed up.
Okay.
Just a quick point out, that was an option the municipalities could choose. Was not a directive at us at all. That was an option the city of Muskegon or whomever could have chosen to not do that.
I just can't figure out why they would refuse revenue. I mean, it's not like it was costing them anything to get the revenue, and we made it easier by not having a deadline where you had all these people come in at the last minute buy their license. You bought them throughout the year. It just doesn't make sense.
Mr. Jagger.
I thought the last we did, it was tabled because we were having problems with it. So I guess I'm just left out of the loop here. Where are we on it then?
I can respond to that.
Mr. Anderson.
We did have some issues initially with the process. However, what we did was we sent out a form to all municipalities asking for their preference and what they would prefer, whether they would prefer to sell them or have the county sell them. We've received many that want to sell them, they want to serve their residents in their municipality and not have people come downtown here. We did not receive a response from the city of Muskegon. We did receive a couple of responses that didn't want to do it, and that's fine, then the county will do it for them. We are moving forward with the current process and the new licensing. However, I'm working with the sheriff and the treasurer to make a change for 2013 where we will go back to the original Public Act, which shows that the treasurer sells the licenses and the sheriff enforces the dog law. And so that's the direction we're going. But right now, the municipalities that I've talked to and heard from, they're happy with the way things are going and they're doing what they want. They wanted to sell to their residents and we've made that available for them.
And this will go on even after we're changing
Right.
this policy,
Yes.
basically.
Yes. And what will be required of this board for the 2013, my goal is to do it in the 2013 budget. What will be required of this board will be to rescind the ordinance, because then it will go back to state statute. And state statute is treasurer and sheriff. And both elected officials are very willing to work with us and so we're going to transition over this year to get it set up that way.
So when you say, but also the township will be itself.
Oh, yes, yes, and the
This was
treasurer will
required.
deal with the municipalities. There's more of a relationship there than there has been with public health and treasurers and municipalities, and so it's a better fit. And there's been a request for that, and so that's what we're working towards.
The other old business, any new business? New business?
I don't know if I'm addressing this to Keith or Bonnie. Our banking, I see PNC is our bank that we designated. Do we ever bid or go to banks for that service, and how often? And the reason I asked that is when I was business manager at Oak Ridge and the treasurer at MCC, we formed a little consortium, and there were 7 school districts that kind of pooled their resources as a group. And I'm wondering if municipalities could do that same thing, and I do think PNC was the winner of that. But it greatly enhanced because of the bigger picture, winner takes all, kind of. And I'm just not sure how often we did that.
We have bid it once since I've been here, and I think it was before Heath was on board. So it was when Joe Seidenstring and the treasurer bid that, and I'll check into that. I don't know how long that award was for.
But just the thought of
Pull it,
that,
consolidate.
and boy, you bring in a lot more millions to a bank, you're gonna
Yeah.
find yourself possibly with a much better deal. Just my 2 cents. Thank you.
You got a new business? See none, entertain public comment from the audience on a new topic. Seeing none,
So, no.
motion to adjourn is in order. Been moved. In favor, say aye.
Yeah.
I don't know the rules.
Yeah.
I don't want to interfere and see.
It's something's got to be going on right now, because there's been emails from almost every building in the county right now about the building I want to. So I know there's something going on. They're all stating what the state law says about it.
We're back.
You look familiar.
Yeah, that's why I see project for you guys.